and go from there. So one of the nice things about tables in InDesign is we can create some nicely stylized tables pretty easily with a variety of the features. And the simple fact that the table is one thing, but the text stylings and whatnot within them, we can create with our, either manually creating those styles, or we can use pre-built style sheets, or ones that we've already built for the document overall. So if I've got a body copy cell sheet or a style sheet, for instance, in my cell sheet, I can apply that body copy as a default style to my table styles to make sure all of that tracks. So that if I start off with Helvetica and I need to switch to Times or Garamond or something like that, everything that style is applied to gets changed. So those are always the kinds of efficiencies that we're trying to accomplish. That's the way I kind of present them. So whether you do that or you just kind of make up your, style your text and whatnot on the fly is kind of up to you, but style sheets do streamline all of this an awful lot, especially when it comes to revisions and that kind of thing. So, all right, so I'm gonna create a new document, and it's gonna be for print. And I'm gonna leave my units set to picas for no real good reason, except that it does give me smaller increments to work with. It makes it a little more manageable. It's a weird thing with units that, generally we think of pages in in inches, 8.5 by 11, 11 by 14 inches, that kind of thing. But most of the measurements that we need inside of that are much easier obtained with points, picas, pixels, that kind of thing. Points and picas being kind of the standard measurement set for desktop publishing. So I'm just where normally I change this to inches, I'm gonna leave it as picas for right now, because I'm just using a letter page. I do not want facing pages. And I'm just going to create one page for the time being, although we're going to expand this a bit. Your margins and bleed we don't really need to worry about. So we'll just three picas for our margins is sufficient, which is basically a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to create that. And then I've got a page. So I'm going to do this a couple of different ways. There are multiple ways to make tables. I'm going to do it the way most of us would, by actually creating a table in InDesign. So, and that's pretty easily accomplished a couple of different ways. The first way that I'm going to do it is I'm just going to start a text field that's the entire size of my page, or that matches my margins. It matches the live area. And then I'm just going to put April calendar as a headline, and just some junk text right below that, just to kind of, just to demonstrate. I would like to see it put the calendar name at the top, but this part is kind of up to you. Here. All right, and then hit my return again, and I'm going to add a table into this. So this is going to be a calendar. So I'm going to go up with my cursor in the box. I'm going to go up to my table menu, insert table, and I'll get this dialog. And I'm going to make this 12 rows long, because I'm going to actually make multiple months, and then, or at least set up for multiple months. We're actually only going to do one, but 12 rows and 7 columns. We've got Sunday through Saturday. Although this particular one is going mostly a 5-day-of-the-week calendar, I just want the Saturday and Sunday in there for it to, so it's complete. So 12 rows, 7 columns. Don't put in any header rows and footer rows, leave the 0 for the time being. We're going to do that manually. And we'll say OK. And that'll just drop a table directly into your text area. So a table is a text element. And even if I create this, even if I go in and just directly create a table, it's still going to place it within a text frame, no matter what I do. So, which is nice because now my spacing is controlled by my style sheets within that text area and all of that good stuff. So there's our basic table, rather ugly and basic table looking, and we're going to style it a little bit. So let's start off by going up to our headline, April calendar, and I'm just going to make this Helvetica, and I'm going to make it Helvetica bold, I think. Make it about, oop, I missed a letter, shoot. Try that again. All right, Helvetica bold, and I'm going to make it 24 points. So there's my header. And this little block of copy that I have right above it, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm just going to make this Helvetica regular. So Helvetica, or light, something along those lines. Spelled demonstrate correctly. All right, and then we've got our table to work with. And let's go ahead and set up the basic cells of our table. So we're going to want, if we go back and take a look at our original, we're going to want to put our days of the week along the top in our header row. So let's just go ahead, and I'm just going to do, you can do this any way you want. I'm just going to do S for Saturday and Sunday because I want to make those columns narrower. But then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and S for Saturday. And then all of the cells below that, I think, so today is Wednesday, today's April 1st, 1, and then if I just hit tab, that'll advance me to the next cell, 2, 3, so on and so forth. Tab 4, tab 5, tab 6, 7, tab 8, tab 9, tab 10, tab 11, tab 12, tab 13, 14, and so on and so forth. Whoops, 20. And 30 days in April. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, so I think I got those all right. So those are going to be my days of the week. And I'll give you a second to fill that out. Yeah. Say that again.
Like it let me type the days of the week at the top, and now it's not letting me type the numbers. Oh, of course now it is.
You got it? Okay. What'll happen sometimes too with this is that if you get columns that are too narrow, your text will just disappear because it overflows, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that was it or not, but.
Oh, it was weird because I was looking on it and typing, it was like zooming out every time.
Gotcha. All right, so let's start with our header row up here. And I'm just gonna, so navigating around a table real quick, if I click in it and if I hover over each of the columns, my cursor turns into an arrow. I can select an entire column this way. I could do the same thing with rows. See, if I hover over the edge, it kind of turns to an arrow. When I click, it selects everything within the row. And then if I go to the corner, it turns to a 45-degree arrow. If I click on that, it selects the entire table. So I can select everything, which I'm going to do here real quick. And I want the text to be in the Helvetica family. So we'll just do Helvetica for all of that. And I think I want to start it a little smaller than 12 points. I'm just going to drop it to like 10 points, I think. And then we'll make some additional adjustments based on that. So deselect that. So I'm going to go out here and just select my header row to start with. And I think I want my formatting to be, if I look at my original calendar, my formatting sits in the center of the row as well as both vertically and horizontally. So selecting that entire row, we'll just go over here to, and I'm in my typography layout, by the way. I'm going to go over here to my sidebars, and under paragraph, I want to center the text in those rows. And maybe for the header row, I'll actually make my font size bold to match my headline. And my cells, I'm just going to leave alone for the time being. So we've got a bunch of different stuff we can take a look at here. So we got some basic formatting into this. The first thing I want to do is, let's look at where we can format from. So if I have a table selected, or I'm working in a table, if I go to my properties panel, I've got all my type options at the top, type and paragraph, text and paragraph. And then towards the bottom, I've got some basic table settings. And if I go to the top, up here into my control bar, I've got the same basic table settings. So I can control the thickness of my lines, or not only the thickness, but whether they appear or don't appear. We'll look at this in just a moment. As well as some heights for our different rows and padding for the individual cells. And then I can also always go to my window menu and go down to my type in tables. And if I open my table menu, which actually ends up being right here on my sidebar, I've got a variety of options in here as well. I'm going to tear this off so I can set it out here, we can see it. So if I look at the tabs from left to right, here are just general table settings, table styles, and cell styles. We're not going to mess too much with the styles on this, just because I kind of feel like it's easier just to wrap your head around just by manually doing it, but we may use cell styles a little bit. Cells are the individual containers, cells. The table refers to the entire table overall. So these are places that we can make edits for all of this, all right? So let's start with lines, the strokes on everything, because I really just want to put horizontal lines between every row. So I'm just going to hover over the corner here, select the table, and then I'm going to go up here to the control bar and use this set of settings to format this. So here's what's we need to pay attention to. We've got fill for our cells, we've got the stroke color for our cells, the stroke type. If we look, there's a variety of different options here. We're just going to leave it solid. The weight. And then this little grid right here refers to what lines we're actually affecting when we make a change. So if I want to start by removing all of the lines from my table. And if I want to do that, I need to go up here first and take a look at it. And it looks like just the top and the bottom lines are highlighted blue. So I want to remove them all. So I need to make sure that I click this horizontal line across the middle, click the vertical line in the middle, and make sure that, yeah, and I think my vertical lines are selected here too. I kind of dislike this widget a little bit because it's so hard to see, but especially at smaller sizes, but it kind of is what it is. So got this all selected. I selected all of these lines within this widget. So now if I go over here to stroke and change that to 0, it should remove, if you've had them all selected, should have removed all the lines from your table. If you still have one or two, like an outside line, for instance, you just need to reselect. Go back up here, make sure that that line's selected as well, and apply the width again. So that's how I remove them all. And now if I want to go back and add just horizontal lines between every row, I need to turn off the left, the right, and the center vertical line, and leave just my bottom, center, and top ones highlighted. And I'll go in here and I'll select half a point maybe. If I tap W on my keyboard, now I just have horizontal lines between each of my cells. All right. Any questions on that before I move on? All right. So that's how, so long as I've got my table selected, or a set of cells, it doesn't even have to be the entire table. If I just wanted to make sure I applied it only to a set of rows, all I need to do is select those rows and do the exact same thing. So, but that gives me the horizontal lines between. So that's the first thing. The second would be maybe where my numbers appear. I kind of feel like I kind of like a little more room, I think, top to bottom. So I'm just going to start with my header row here. And I'm going to select just that row and go up here to if I take a look, I can either do it down here on the bottom in my properties panel, or I can do it up here in my control bar. I'm going to increase the padding within each of these cells. So I'm going to leave the link selected so that right now it's just 4 points. I'm going to increase that to like 9, let's go to 10 points. that gives me some room around my header row. If I really only wanted to apply it to the top and bottom, I'd just unlink that and just apply the 10 points to the top and the bottom cells. So I can adjust my cell space padding there. And then I'm going to go down here into my body cells, and I'm just going to click in the very first cell and drag across all of them. And I'm going to do the same thing, except I don't think I'm going to go a full 10 points. Maybe I'll just do 8, maybe 6. Just something to give a little bit of breathing room off of the edges, off of the rules. So that works out pretty. So we're kind of opening things up, stylizing it a little bit. And then this is entirely up to you. If you want to if I select all these, let's say that I determine that I really kind of want each of these cells to be more square, which, a calendar kind of is. I can select all of these cells, and up here in my control bar, there is an at least. This icon right here is for the row height. I can determine that I want it to be at least or exactly, one of the two. I'm going to go with at least. Go out here to the measurement bar, and let's make it 8p. And that will open up all of those cells. So I'm starting to get something that's a little more calendar-like, right? You could just let the content of your cells force the height of each one of these, but I kind of want them to be consistent, so I'm going to set that at least height. I at least want them to be this height. If my content ends up being bigger than this, it'll just expand the cells out. So, but that kind of gets us going. And whenever I did that, actually, let's notice that I lost a bunch of my empty rows down here because basically my text area is not big enough to hold all that anymore. And I can tell that by right here, I've got that little red box on the corner. So I need to provide another text area for the rest of those cells to flow into. So if I go over here to my pages, I'm just going to go to my pages panel, open it up, and add a new page below that. And then I'll click on that red box. Might have to do it twice until it turns into that text icon. And I'll just click here and drag out a text area on my second page. And there are the rest of my cells. We all still following along? So this is all fine and great, but what if I want my days of the week to repeat on every page or within every new text area? Because if I was doing a 12-month calendar here, it seems reasonable that that's what I would want, right? So I did not, when we set this up, I did not have you set up any header rows, just so we could do it manually. Right now, this just flows into the next text area. If I define this as a header row, so I'll just highlight all of that. If I go to my table menu, down to convert rows, you'll see that there's one option highlighted, and that is to header. So I can convert that particular row into a header row. And it doesn't change here, but what does happen is if I scroll down to my next page, I now have a header row on this page. So identifying a header row will repeat your header row on within every new text area. It's not necessarily page specific. If if this was a much narrower calendar and I just put a second text area into this page, then the header row would show up in that text area. So that's how I can make sure that I keep a header row on every page. And now that I've done that, let's go ahead and I'm going to select this header row, and I want to make it black with white type in it. So by selecting it, I'll just go to my swatches panel, and I'm going to fill it with black, and then click on my type icon and make that paper for white. So now I've got a black and white header row. And if I scroll down, you'll see that the header row on the next page now matches the original. This is why it makes sense to bother setting up that header row if you need tables on multiple pages, so that whatever edits you make on one page get carried through into the other pages. All right. Any questions so far? Still good? All right. So let's make another edit to our table here. If we go back and look at the original, I've got narrower columns for Saturday and Sunday. So let's do that. Let's go back over here, and I'm just going to select that entire column. I probably actually don't even have to select it necessarily, but I'm going to do that and then just hover over the divider line and narrow this column up to about this, which is, what's its width, I wonder. So just where I can set my height for a row, I can do the same thing for a column. Let's make sure that this column is 3 pixels wide, or 3 picas wide. And then I'm going to come over to Saturday, highlight that, and I'm going to do the same thing here, except now I'm just going to change it to 3p. That'll narrow that up. And then if I just hover over the divider line here to my last row, or my last column, now I can slide that entire column over to match the width of my text area. So I'm just kind of moving column widths around. After all of that, what I'm left with are 5 columns in the middle that aren't all the same width. So if I just select each of these columns, just my Monday through Friday, and I go back to my table menu, I can distribute all of these columns evenly. And that will match the width on them. So it's pretty neat, pretty organized. W. All right. So the basics of our table are set up that way. We can just go ahead and, we could select just these cells if we wanted to, go to our swatches panel, make these maybe 30% black. Do the same thing here maybe. Black 30. Oops. Maybe we decide we want to alternate the column colors. We could do that as well, if that helps us out. Maybe we make those blue, 10% for Tuesday and Thursday. I don't know. I'm just kind of making it up here. So it's something we can work with. I do also want to go ahead and change all of my month or all of my days of the week to Helvetica Bold. Oops, and I didn't select everything. This is why we do style sheets. I didn't do style sheets with this one. I should have. Oh well. There we go. It's all bold. So far, so good. Understand that an awful lot of what I'm doing here is simply to taste, So you don't want to you don't want deeper rows. You leave those alone and just set your padding on them. Let your text tell you how deep your rows will be, Who's trying to steal my TV? So we got all that formatted. So let's put some content in these. I'm not going to do the class calendar, but let's say here, just put my cursor in this cell, hit return, and I'm just going to put a couple of events in it. So let's say 9:40, production 1, return, let's say 4 o'clock. So that was Quorum or whoever. And I don't have anything after that. So we'll just put a couple of events in a month. Because what I actually want to do here is apply a little bit of formatting for bullet type formatting for my activities. So we've got that. 2 of these will work fine. I'm just going to select all of those, and I'm going to create a style sheet here. Go to my paragraph styles, and create style paragraph 1, but I'm going to call this my to-dos. So we got to-dos, and then take a look at character formats. I really don't want it to be bold. Make them regular. And I'm going to make them a little bit smaller too. So if I select my basic character formats, right now they're 10 points. Let's make them 9 points. Or 8 points, I guess. And we'll come back and probably adjust our leading later. And then, like I said, I want these to be bullet points. So I'm going to go down through my paragraph styles here. Let's do bullets and numbering. I'm just going to leave it as a regular conventional bullet point. Change my list type to bullets. It does that messy, nasty, ugly thing to it. And I'm going to say okay with this for a moment, and I'm going to go back into it, because what I want to be able to do, I want to be able to zoom in on that cell so I can see what I've got. Now I'll go back to my to-dos style sheet, reopen it up, and let's fix these bullet points. So here's how bullet points work in InDesign. Go back down to my bullets and numbering. It's all driven off of these indents. So if we start at the bottom and look at the tab position, it's set to 3 picas right now, which is why my text is all the way over here, away from my bullet. I'm going to actually reduce this. Let's just reduce it to, let's go down to like, we'll go down to 1 pica on the tab indent. The left indent is going to refer to where my bullets show up at. So I want my bullets to inset a little bit. Most of the time, bullets set in from your copy. I'm going to change the left indent. Let's increase that, and we'll see my left indent coming over. Maybe I'll go to, let's go to 6 points, see what we get. I'm still on my second line here. It's still out here flush to this bullet. The way I can fix that is by sending my first line, the indent on my first line, to the negative side. So if my left indent's 6 points, I'm going to make my first line indent, I'm going to start off with minus 0p6. Let's see what that does. Basically, that brings my bullet back over to where it was originally. But now, all of my copy aligns naturally. And I can still kind of keep adjusting this if I want. I could change my first line indent, or sorry, my left indent. I could increase that a little bit more. That'll just bring the entire unit over. I could reduce my space between the bullets and the numbers there. But that will help line up all of my bullets. So tab position pushes everything in away from the edge. First line or left indent will indent your bullets, and then if you go to the negative side on your first line indent, that should move it back and line up all of your text. I think when we did bullet style sheets before and we did bullet points, I showed you an alternate way to do it where you didn't have to mess around with these so much. But this keeps things nice and clean. So I'm going to go back. Now I've got those set up. I'm going to go back up to my character for, let's go to indents and spacing, and I want to add some space after each bullet point just to kind of separate them a little bit. My basic character formats, maybe because space is probably going to be limited in a calendar, I'm going to change my leading to 9. Say okay. and I've set up some decent content. You can obviously format all of these with or without style sheets. It's entirely up to you. I think style sheets help on, I try to keep them kind of specific for the most part, but your style sheets, you do need to use style sheets on your cell sheet though. So kind of keep that in mind. If I like, the general format of, I can even set formats for these cell styles. If I go back to my table panel, I do have a panel here for cell styles. I can do that. Put my cursor in there. Call this my MWF cells. I've got all the same settings in here, and it's just going to pick up the ones I've already set. It's just like whenever we did paragraph style sheets, I can set the formatting on things and then create a style sheet off of it. So we'll just do that. Maybe I'll select, put my cursor in this cell. This becomes my Tuesday, Thursday cell styles. Tuesday, Thursday cells. And then I can go through all of my Wednesday ones here, for instance, apply my Monday, Wednesday cell styles to those, highlight these, highlight my Fridays, then I'll highlight my Tuesday, Thursday ones and apply my Tuesday, Thursday cells. So now if I want to make an edit to any of those, I'll just go into the appropriate cell, like Tuesday, Thursday ones, for instance. Go down to my fill. Maybe I want to change that to 20%. And I can make all those changes at once. Can do the same thing with my header cells. If I select my header row, go to my cell styles, create a new cell or a new cell style, open it up, my header cells, say OK. So on and so forth. What time we got? All right. Any questions about tables overall? It's pretty, they're pretty flexible. I mean, you can always, hover over lines. You can always adjust the height of cells or columns. But I just kind of wanted to show you the major features of them to make styling the table in your cell sheet a little simpler. I don't like, I can always select my table styles as well and go into my table and make other edits there. It's just using this basic table style. I could modify this a little bit if I needed to, but we'll just keep it simple. I honestly have only had a few projects that I've done where I've had a lot of tables in a document, in a long document. But basically, I just used this process to set them up, created style sheets of everything, and then created a table style so that when I got to the next table, all I had to do was apply the table style to it, and most of the formatting was done. So just keep in mind that those are there. If I go ahead and I could select my entire table, go to my paragraph styles, and add, oops, that's not what I wanted. Grab that little line of copy that I've got, add some space after it. I don't like stuff being up on top of each other like that. But tables can go straight in line with the rest of your copy. InDesign is flexible enough to allow me, I could have put my copy and my tables in separate cells or separate text areas. That's fine as well. A lot of people do that. If you get documents that other people have worked on, you'll probably see that more than once. I just kind of try to like to keep things all within a single, either a linked text area or a single text area, so that I can take advantage of things like space after, space before, to make sure that my spacing is always consistent and clean. That's just an easy way to tell, and it gives it a little more professional look. So, but that's tables.